Well, hello there, old man Steve. You know, been reminiscing lately. I've told a few stories, but I thought I'd tell you another one that that I'd forgotten about. But I guess as you get older, you reminisce, and I've been thinking back about some of the things that had happened to me, and I feel like maybe I'm kind of like the Forrest Gump, because I seem to be at the right place at the right time to be involved in something, or I don't know, maybe that has nothing to do with it. But anyway, I was in the Navy and I went to boot camp, and it was in San Diego, and this was in 1957, probably, yeah, 57. And I forgot how long boot camp was, but it was intense, as it's meant to be, and I survived it. And part of the what you do in training is you have to do KP. You know, that's work in the kitchen. And I remember, just like in the old movies where you see the guy peeling potatoes all day long, I remember that was one of my jobs. That's about the only thing I do remember about it, except that they were filming a movie with Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster, Run Silent, Run Deep. It was about submarines. Wasn't a bad movie. Since then, of course, I've seen it, and it's okay. But the Navy had their own newspaper, the Navy Times or whatever it was called, and Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster were invited to the naval base and to eat lunch with the enlisted guys, and not the guys in boot camp, but I mean you know, the ones that, well, the enlisted ones. And that was, in the day that happened, I was on KP duty, and my job was to stand. You know, they had a cafeteria just like they do in schools, and I stood behind the counter, and as somebody came by, my job was the bread, the rolls. I remember we had, I think, spaghetti and meatballs, and we had some Italian bread, garlic bread or something like that, and I had tongs, and I would hand somebody a piece of bread if they wanted it onto their plate as they went down the line. Well, Burt Lancaster, he came in, and he sat at the tables out there with all the guys. I mean, he was just carrying on and laughing, and he was very animated. And I don't know what he was saying. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I mean, he was just being a big star. And he didn't go through the line, but Clark Gable did. He got a tray along with everybody else, went down the line, and when he got to me, I said, "Would you like a piece of bread?" And he says, "No, thank you." He said that to me, Clark Gable. "No, thank you." Oh, no, thank you. Yes, Clark Gable spoke to me. He wouldn't take my bread. Well, I don't care. Anyway, I remember him as being very quiet, and I read later that he and Burt Lancaster didn't get along at all when they were making that movie. And Clark Gable was older than Burt Lancaster. I've since looked it up, and he was probably about 55, 56. And old Burt there was in his 40s. And in Hollywood, I guess that's a big difference, because I think, and Clark Gable died about 3 years after that. But at the time, I also read that he was very ill when he was making that movie. But he seemed like a very nice man. He was very quiet and reserved compared to the way Burt Lancaster was acting. And I remember him as being shorter, but I being kind of short and stout. But I looked it up, and it says that he was 6'1", and Burt Lancaster was 6'1". But I don't remember seeing old Burt there standing up. He sat down and was carrying on like he was a master of ceremonies or something. And then after Clark Gable got his food, he went over and sat down at the table down at the other end, not anywhere near Burt Lancaster. So it was pretty obvious that they either didn't like each other or they just didn't talk to each other. I mean, so anyway, we had to stand there through that whole thing, and they took, of course, they took pictures and stuff. It was all for the Navy Times, that newspaper that they put out, and that was the highlight of my boot camp, was seeing those movie stars, because I did a lot of the filming on the base using one of the submarines for the exterior shots, and on all of that. The interior shots were all done probably in the studio. So, and the movie got fair reviews. I've seen it a couple of times. It's just one of those kind of movies, it was supposed to take place during the war, and you get a chance, look at it. But it was interesting, and I was there. And Burt Lancaster said, "No, thank you," to me. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it because it's true. Y'all have a nice day now. Bye.